Greetings everyone, it's your boy Ripchip, and today we are going to be doing an 80% speedrun of MDK, also known as one of the greatest games ever made, also known as Shiny Entertainment's magnum opus. Before we get into the run, I do want to give a photosensitivity warning. There are several sections in this game that have flashing lights, so if that's something that can affect you, please keep that in mind and be careful. Otherwise, let's go ahead and go right into it. So while we're free-falling into the Earth's atmosphere, I'm going to explain the premise of what's going on here. Down there is a planetary mine crawler. It's tearing the planet apart, and in each level our goal is to board that thing and destroy it. And every level starts with this section here where we're falling, and there's multiple items dropping. There's only a couple that we ever usually need to get, the most important being this one right here, Super Chain Gun. But these missiles coming at us, they want us obviously to avoid it, but we want to take as much damage as we can before we get to the end of the level, and I'll explain why once we get to the end. But just know that me getting hit by there is intentional. But we're going to start by running diagonally, because this is a PC game from 1997, which means running diagonally is faster than just moving forward. And we're going to be waiting for this item, the world's smallest nuclear explosion, to drop, and it's going to be our first instances of using quick saving and quick loading to speed up animations, because we have to wait for that explosion to happen. But by quick saving and quick loading, we mitigate that and save a couple seconds. And while we're going out of bounds, I'll mention that we do that trick quite a few times. It saves a few seconds over the course of the run, because there's quite a few world's smallest nuclear explosions. But throughout each level, we're going to be going through different hallways, doing different things. Each room kind of has a goal, like destroying a certain thing or killing certain enemies, and the goal is obviously to do that as quick as we can. There's a couple of conventional ways to do that, like just simply shooting that explosion there to clear the area, which is used with the sniper rifle, which is a pretty useful item and also a very unique item for 1997 because it has a fully functional zoom feature. But there's different ammo types for that as well that we'll be using, mainly the sniper grenades and the mortars we just picked up in the previous room. And as I mentioned, we want to have our health as low as we can by the end of the level. We want to avoid picking up health items where we can, but we also want to be able to take damage without it knocking us down, because that will slow us down, and it's pretty counterintuitive to do that. Just going to run by that tank real quick. So a lot of times the way we can mitigate that is by, if an enemy explodes, we can simply jump over it, and we'll still take the damage. But coming up here is a first example of using the sniper rifles, different ammo types. We're going to be using the sniper grenades here. And by zooming in and doing that, we're going to be able to take out that tank instantly, which clears space for the next item that we need, which is, if you couldn't guess, it's a world's smallest nuclear explosion that's hiding inside of that thing. So once again, we are going to be doing the quick save and quick load trick to speed that up. It's also interesting because despite the name, the world's smallest nuclear explosion is not used for, like, as a weapon or anything like that. It's literally used to unlock these doors, so it's just a very explosive key more than anything else. And we'll get to use our mortars in this section. Mortars are a little bit weird. They have a couple of very specific uses throughout the game. And instead of firing in a straight line, they get lobbed out of your gun. So we have to be very careful when we're shooting them, because those collision on those tubes that we shoot them in are very, very awkward. It's very easy to shoot at just the wrong angle and have it bounce off, and that can waste time. But you can usually look for specific visual cues to mitigate that. But coming up here is our first instance of a relatively useful trick throughout the game, which is the vent glitch. When you ride those little air vents, there is a specific point where they will cut off, and you'll stop going upward. If we leave the vent with the parachute before we reach the maximum height, we'll continue to go upward, which will allow us to go a little higher than the intended maximum height. And there it's useful for just saving a little bit of platforming, but there's some more substantial and game-breaking uses of that later on. Now this room we're supposed to take as a disguise and place it here to sabotage all these enemies, but since we're playing on easy, we can just kind of brute force our way through it. On higher difficulties, enemies do a lot more damage, so this strat would absolutely never work. But we got to use the world's most interesting bomb. It's so interesting you only use it once in the game. But it's more times than you get to use the or less times than you get to use the world's smallest nuclear explosion. And we're already at the tail end of the level. My health is 33, which is pretty low. That's pretty good. Now, coming up here is the first boss enemy, which is what you have to defeat to destroy the ship. And we're going to speed up this fight. It's a sniper fight, but if you have sniper grenades, you can simply blow his head off, and that's way faster than just doing this the normal way. But now the thing is going to explode, and we're going to be sucked into a space vacuum tunnel thing, and we're supposed to be chasing a power-up, and it gives us 150 health, I think, if we get it. But if we run out of health, our dog Bones there will instead pull us out, and we'll finish the level a little faster. So that's why we want to have our health low, so that we can get out of there as quick as possible. Now we're going on to the second level. Same start, we're just going to be free-falling from outer space into the Earth's atmosphere. With each of these levels, there's usually like some sort of gimmick or element that's unique to the level. They're not really that substantial over the course of the game, but this one's main gimmick is that there's a lot of sliding tubes you have to go in between to get to each section. So this is an example of where RNG can kind of be bad. This item spread is kind of hard to read. Sometimes they won't spread in a way that you can get everything you need. The most important thing is that you get all the items that are essential, and by that I mean you absolutely need to get super chain gun bullets. If you miss those, then you can lose like probably over a minute on each level, sometimes even more for certain levels. But yeah, these are the little slidey tubes I'm talking about. Just slide down them. And also, with this level, there's going to be a point where we pick up a health item that we cannot avoid. That's going to give us 50 health, so at the beginning of the level, it's really not as important to worry about your health, because it's going to get refilled anyways. We're just going to run past all these carefully. Now these, you're gonna, if you get damaged by them, you'll get knocked down, so you don't want to get hit by those at all, especially since health isn't that important right now. I'm just gonna continue to slide, grab some candy on the way, because why not? We all need a little treat every now and then. Alrighty, so this next section we just have to wait a little bit because we need to get mortars to shoot into that little tube. So we're going to stand in a specific spot here to hopefully have it land on top of us and shoot it right away. There we go. And then we just got to wait for that to blow up, and it's going to reveal the world's smallest nuclear explosion that will blow up that wall with the logo on it. And then one other thing I forgot to mention since I just did it there is with items that you pick up like that you can throw, it's actually faster to throw them while you're in air, because when you stand, there's a little bit of a startup animation that stops you. You have to stand in place to throw the item, but if you're airborne, it'll just throw it out without any slowdowns or any animations or anything like that, and that's very useful, because you can also throw out more than one at a time, which we'll be using that a little bit more later on in the run. Alright, so now we're going to use our little coil parachute thing here, and this is going to allow us to diagonally glide across this whole section, which will allow us to skip doing this entire thing the intended way, which is much faster than trying to do the platforming here. And we don't have to worry about dodging those big pieces of, I don't know, neon-colored candy that they can in shooting at us. So we're going to ride down this slide, and now this next upcoming area is going to have a pretty cool glitch. It allows us to pretty much skip the entire next room. If we don't do it perfectly, we can still skip the room, but I want to do it the fun and glitchy way because it looks neat. I'm going to save here just in case I mess it up. So we're going to jump on this very thin piece of collision on the slide here. It's very, very finicky. But we're going to jump diagonally, fly across, and this is going to let us skip this arena section. But if we open up this door and load the slide into the next area, but don't actually enter the room, it's going to deload the previous room and allow us to, instead of sliding down, we can just fall. And now this leads us to what is probably the worst level, or worst room in the game, which is this room right here. So aside from the very odd-looking reflecting textures, the way this room works is that we have to get the world's smallest nuclear explosion. However, it is one of several items that can drop from the ceiling in one of 6 locations, and what item drops and at what time said item drops is totally random. So this section can take anywhere between like 30 seconds to 2.5 minutes, and it is unfortunately, at this current moment, something that is purely RNG based and we have not been able to solve. And unfortunately we didn't get it right away, which is bad luck, but hopefully it won't take too long. If not, this is perfect time to start spouting out trivia about Shiny Entertainment and the greatness known as MDK, starring our protagonist here, whose name is Kurt Hectic. Alright, we also picked up a dummy there, which has some interesting uses throughout the game, but also has a very game-breaking bug we're going to use towards the end of the game. Got grenades, that's 3 items so far, that's pretty cool. Yeah, a lot of research has gone into like trying to solve this room, trying to skip it entirely, and unfortunately it's all been a bunch of dead ends. And the reason we can't just like float into this room and then skip it by going out of bounds is because the area we need to go that requires the world's smallest nuclear explosion won't properly load until that door is unlocked. So if we could find a way to get to the area without having to worry about that, or find some way to mitigate the RNG in this room, this would make for this section being a lot less awful. But I see the nuke right there. The plus side to us having to wait is that we're taking a lot of damage, which means the exit section of this level will be a lot faster. So now we have our nuke. We're just gonna wrap around here and use it. And another detail about the animation cancel there is that we have to make sure that we don't do it until the start of the explosion animation, because that glitch only works if like animation's already started. If we just throw it and then quick save and quick load, it won't get the same result. It will still just be airborne and we'd still have to wait on the animation to end. But we're coming up to the end of the level now. We're gonna ride this little hover car thing. Gotta love these skyboxes. These things, mind you, are just giant planetary mine crawlers, and they basically look like small-scale civilizations on each of them, which is pretty neat. Got this really nice epic music here. Shoutouts to Tommy Tallarico. Soundtrack for this game's awesome. But now we're going on to the next boss, which has another quick kill method that's not quite as conventional as just using a sniper grenade. The way this one works is we have to expose him and do damage to him, and then he's going to try to escape in a vehicle. However, if... oh, I got a little... missed my shot there. You have to break this glass. However, if we are able to do enough damage to him before he gets on the ship, we can actually kill him before he gets on there, and that will save us a little bit of time. I got just shy of what I needed, and that's fine. We have backup strats for that. So normally he would be dead before he gets on this, but we just have to use sniper grenades to expose him. This just gives us a little more time to do some self-damage before the exit section here. And once again, we are out of the tube and we are on to the next level. Now this next level is interesting because the PC version of MDK is very interesting in the way that it is very finicky to run on modern computers. There are a couple of sections in the game that can crash the game for no reason, or at least no reason I can understand. And that's mainly from using the glider, which is what we're using to render the game. It's very difficult to get this game to work properly if you don't use the glider. It also has some good customization features, but it is a little bit finicky, and there are just some parts of the game where the game will just crash. Some of them we know about and are consistent and we can work around, but sometimes there are sections where the game just decides to give up. But that's why it's important to quick save and quick load, or just at least be aware of the areas where it can happen. So we're gonna just jump and throw 2 grenades, blow this door open. And this corner coming up right here is one of those sections that we know can consistently crash the game. So luckily we save. If we just don't go right around at full speed, we can avoid the crash. But I always like to save there just in case. Now we're just killing some time while we wait for the next enemy to come so that we can get to the next area. Pick up some useful items here through the level. And it should be noted that this level, out of all the levels in the game, has like probably the most forgiving item layouts if you miss something at the beginning. Like if you miss chain gun bullets or grenades, there's quite a few sections in this level where you got backup strats in case that kind of thing happens. Now in this room we have these things we have to destroy. The worst part about this section is that these things have draining health, and super chain gun bullets does not impact the amount of damage they take. However, if you stop shooting them, they will regain their health back. So if something interrupts you, this section can not only take a lot of time, but also make you lose precious chain gun ammo, which we really don't want to have happen. Alright, so this next room's pretty interesting. We're going to be picking up these items right here. Try not to pick up the health. I'm going to throw a tornado to deal with these enemies. But now we're just going to destroy these little things that are spawning enemies. We have to destroy all of them to unlock the next room. And one thing I should mention is that when we use the tornado, whenever we use any item like that that goes out like that, we can't use the grenades or any other throwable item until that thing is done being used. So we opt to use chain gun bullets for that section instead. And now we've got this room, which, sure, why not? Everything so far has had a pretty consistent aesthetic, and then they just throw this at you. But the platforming here can be a little bit iffy, as you can clearly tell. Alright, so we're gonna do this here. So we're gonna try to do another hover glitch here. This one is very precise, and a lot of times it's very easy to mess up. I messed it up there, that's fine. We'll do the backup method. Hopefully we can get it. But it's ideal to get this because doing it the intended way is a lot slower, and we can just hover up to this section, which saves us quite a bit of movement and platforming. So now we're going on to the next out of bounds glitch here. This one is a relatively new discovery than the last year by a fellow runner by the name of Hakalaka Dinjidad. And he found a way to get out of bounds, and normally we would have to load this room by opening up a door. However, there are still assets here that are loaded that we can interact with. So this would be a pyramid that we have to blow up to load the next room, and it's simply still there so we can interact with it and load the next room. And this saves quite a few seconds, and it just looks cool. So now we just gotta wait for the next enemy to show up so that we can ride a hoverboard to the boss area. And the next boss is interesting because the next boss we don't have to like shoot a lot or, you know, drain his health or anything like that. The way to beat him is he's on a spinning little bicycle thing with 4 orange dots that we have to shoot, and that will effectively blow him up and we'll complete the level. And what they realistically want you to do is use the sniper rifle to shoot them all precisely while dealing with some enemies that will come in and try to attack you. However, by throwing the dummy decoy, the enemies get distracted and will focus on the decoy instead of you, and that allows us to just focus on taking out the little orange spheres you'll see here momentarily. And instead of using the sniper rifle, we're just going to use grenades because that's a little bit easier and you can kind of just spam them. So there's a little dummy decoy, he looks just like me. But as you can see, the enemies are going to be distracted by him and not even think about me. And then we can just throw all these grenades and take out the boss instantly. Alright, so my health is a little bit higher than I would like, but that's okay. The damage that you can take is a little bit you know, there's some levels where you can consistently do it and get it low enough at a certain point. And funny enough, if you actually die in the middle of, or if you die right before this section right here, instead of going to the game over or the death animation, it will instead pull you in, and you'll go into that with 1 health, and you'll get pulled out instantly. So if you have low enough health to pull that off, it's pretty cool, but it can be kind of difficult to do that. So now we're going on to the 4th level. The gimmick of this one is there's sections where you ride a snowboard, hoverboard thing. There's not really a way to speed up those sections other than just don't run into stuff, but this level here in particular, I mentioned super chain gun bullets. If you don't pick them up, the level can be slow. This is probably the single level where you can lose the most time if you don't have super chain gun bullets, because there are a lot of enemies you have to shoot in this area. But luckily there are some backup items and stuff that aren't too out of the way to get. You just need to make sure you don't forget them. And here's our little snow hoverboard thing that I was talking about earlier. We're just going to ride through these sections while listening to this very heavily inspired music here. This first section is the shortest out of the 3 that we have to do in this level, but like I said, the main thing is to just not run into walls or hit obstacles. We can still take some damage to lower our health if we in certain areas where we can, if we jump at like things like the rocks that take damage, those will let us take damage without slowing down, but it's not really that important this early on. So I am going to save here because this large terrain is one of those areas where a random game crash can happen. But we're going to just move around carefully. There is a strat on this section where you can get extra items by destroying those turrets. However, what item you get is random, so just for the sake of demonstration, I'm not going to go for anything there. I'm just going to go straight to the next part. And then from on this point, as you can see, you can pick up 10 red bones for a surprise power-up. It's not really a surprise because the power-up is the same every time, and neither of the instances of this where you can get the power-up from picking up bones is actually particularly useful. So if you don't get all the bones, it's not the end of the world. We've got our guy just chilling there. Yeah, I think one of those things that we would like to maybe find in terms of other than just the RNG in the previous, the second level, in the mirror room is finding a way to make this section faster, if we could. But we also picked up a power-up there a couple seconds ago called Groovy. It's got the Earthworm Jim logo on it, because that's also a game made by Shiny Entertainment. But it has the very useful and effective ability of dropping a cow onto an enemy on this little section here. These little turret things. As you can see. Shoutouts to Earthworm Jim. But those are one of those things where you don't have to do it, but like, who doesn't want to drop a cow on an enemy and say groovy? This is the grooviest part of the game, and that's saying a lot because MDK has a lot of really groovy sections. We're almost at the end of this section. So this next area, we're going to be fighting a tank in order to get a world's smallest nuclear explosion. But this instance of the world's smallest nuclear explosion is a little different because we don't actually want to do we don't have to do the quick saving and quick loading trick. Because what we'll do is once we get it, we're going to be scouring around to pick up a couple of extra items. Mainly the ones that are in this box. And luckily, because we have super chain gun bullets, we can take out this tank very quickly and before it can even do any damage. So we're going to throw this and be very careful, climbing up top here to get these sniper grenades. I say being careful there because if you're not careful and the room loads before you pick them up. You can actually fall through the ceiling and fall to a death plane where these doors are. It's pretty neat. Pretty funny, but you don't want to have it happen. Now we're just going to throw grenades at this thing. Takes 6 of them to blow it up. We can move on. And we're going to do a very, very small skip here. Normally we have to shoot that turret in order to use the vent there to glide up here, but we can simply just jump to it to ride the last little hoverboard section. We're at 54 health, which is pretty good. Let's see if I can get a little lower without it being too dangerous. But in this section we want to be a little careful because there is a super chain gun bullet pickup that we want to get. Groovy. Just to make sure we have enough to deal with in the last room of the level effectively. So we're not going to waste it on these enemies. Try to avoid the candy because I don't want to go to the dentist. Riding these nice little hallways here. And to go on what I said earlier, you can just jump into these rocks to take damage without slowing down. It's a good way to get some last minute damage before the end of the level. Can't miss these cows right here. Ruby. Yeah, we're in the section that unfortunately the music cuts off and doesn't come back for a couple of seconds, so we're just awkwardly riding through a quiet hallway. There's the Chingun bullets. Now we can focus on just getting to the end of the level and trying to take as much damage as we can. Like I said, I'm not necessarily going to try to go for some of the super optimal damage strats because I don't want to accidentally die and lose more time than I need to. But if you can get your health to 0 while the end of the level is happening, you can instantly get out of the space tunnel section at the end. So now we're gonna use our gun to take out that thing dropping bombs. Then we can use the super sniper grenades to take this guy out quickly. There we go. You have to be careful because if one of those grenades hits one of the bombs he's shooting at, it'll actually intercept it, and we'll have to waste time getting closer to him and using grenades to take him out. But those bombs bounce pretty weirdly, so it's really hard to avoid them if they are going to get hit. If you aim at a certain angle, you can pretty easily avoid them, but there's still a chance that the sniper grenade will get intercepted. And now we're on to the 5th level, and you're going to notice something very different about this free-falling section. Is that our dog is now falling too. And unfortunately that means that our buddy here, Bones, is going to get captured, so we have to go rescue him. Alright, don't like this item drop, so I'm gonna... Okay, so unfortunately they were all clustered. I prioritized the chain gun bullets because they are the most important. And there's going to be plenty of other sections to get items throughout the next 2 levels. But here we have to do one of the trickiest sniper sequences, which is trying to take this out by a certain point so that we can move through this section of the level as quick as we can. These sniper bullets are actual projectiles and not hit scan, so we actually have to be a little bit careful with where we aim them. It's very easy to miss, as you can see. That took it out. Didn't get the fastest way to take him out there, but that's okay. I only missed 1 turret. And we also picked up a dummy there. The dummy here is going to be used in a way that is very unique, and is also a glitch that was found recently that is very game-breaking. Get this first. Do our typical quick saving and quick loading technique here. Now, I should also mention that at the end of this level, we're not going to be using a death abuse to get out of the space tunnel. Instead, we have to actually follow to the end, and you'll see why. So from here on out, we actually don't have to have low health. It's actually important that we keep ourselves alive, because we don't have to worry about that section at the end. So if we pick up here, it's just for convenience and because we don't have to worry about that. So we got another sniper section coming up here. We're gonna try to do this as quick as we can. Missed the swag shot there. Alright, and as long as we hit that guy, he'll crash the ship right here and open up the next area for us. Now in this next room, we have to be careful because there is a potential for this room to soft lock if we don't do it carefully. We have to take out a bunch of enemies that are all going to come down here. And there is a small chance that some of them can still get stuck up there, and we won't be able to kill them, meaning we cannot progress to the next part of the level. Okay, there it is. So once we take out the last enemy, he will open up this area and we can progress. And if we don't take out all of the enemies, that section will never open up. So now we're going to use the dummy here, and we're going to throw it through the window, and you might be wondering why we're doing that. And as I mentioned, there is a very unique glitch attached to this, where if we throw the dummy into the out-of-bounds area and it hits a death plane before the next area loads, and it's going to have the enemies acting like they want to go after the dummy, but instead of it just being for that one room or until the dummy is dead, it is going to happen through the entire rest of the level, effectively breaking the enemy's AI. So now enemies are never going to shoot at us or even focus at us. And that just not only makes things easier, but it also makes it so you don't have to ever worry about enemies bothering you. And that, again, was a very huge discovery. And you might be wondering why we haven't used it more. And that's because this level is the first real instance where it has a profound impact on the actual level itself. And because we don't necessarily want that glitch active in earlier levels when we have to worry about making our health low. Because if no enemies attack us, we're just going to have high health for the majority of the game. But there's still, you know, unexplored potential with that. And we're going to do this section here. This next trick is a little bit iffy because we have to use some very unconventional collision to pull this off, which is jumping on top of this pitchfork here. It's a little far away, so I got to push it forward a bit. Just a little bit, though. That should be good. Oh, missed it. And ideally, if you get this relatively quickly, it saves time versus doing it the intended way, but it's not really working. It's really hard to judge the distance you need for this because everything is so dark, but yeah, you know, we're just gonna roll with this, push a little further, get on here, and as you can see, getting on the actual little amount of collision that's on this thing is very iffy, and we can go up here. So normally if you do that fast, it saves like 15 seconds, but it still looks cool, and it looks janky, so that's neat. Now we're going to do another skip here. Normally we have to destroy a bunch of enemies to use air vents to get to this next door, but we can instead just glide at the very beginning right to this next area. And no enemies are aiming at us or focusing at us, which also includes the boss enemies. They will not do anything to us. So in this section, we can actually take out this ship and not have to worry about the turrets shooting us because the dummy glitch is active. So if we do this, we don't have to worry about dodging fire, and we can instead focus on shooting all of these turrets before it even gets to its next point, and that saves quite a few seconds, and it makes just that section a lot easier overall. But we have to kill all the enemies in this room. Make sure I get all of them. Very easy to miss them. Once they're dead, the big boss here, Gunta, is going to take our dog and try to escape. And throughout this game, we've been trying to save the planet, you know, from all these aliens. But now it's personal because instead of saving the Earth, we are saving our best friend. So we have to chase after Gunta. We don't want to die here because Bones not available to pull us out of the space tunnel if we do die. But once we chase him to the very end, we're going to get to the final level of the game. And we'll have our little face-off with this big mean guy right here. And in case you were wondering, Kurt, when he is in this space tunnel sections, he is a 3D model, but throughout the majority of the game on these actual levels, he's a 2D sprite. I'm not sure what the decision for that was, but right here at the beginning, we're going to do another dummy glitch, which is going to make the entire level very easy. We just have to carefully throw this out of bounds. This one's a little... Oh, I loaded the wrong save there. Whoops. It's okay. It's just more time to admire MDK. So we're going to do this again. Successfully this time, ideally. Not that time. It's a little bit dodgy to get it over this thing, but definitely worth it. Saves quite a bit of time, and now it's going to fall to the out-of-bounds area and hit the death barrier, and that's going to activate the glitch. So now nothing in this level is going to be a threat to us at all. And while that is very helpful for just keeping your health, it's going to be very helpful, and I mean very helpful, for the last section of the level. We're just going to wait a second here to get some sniper grenades because we didn't get some earlier. Go through this wonderfully gross tubing here. Gotta take out all these dogs and then start shooting Gunta to get him running. And we have to shoot Gunta a certain amount of times. And he has to also finish a full lap around this little area in order to get to the next area. But we don't have to worry about super chain gun bullets, so we can just unload on him, because we'll get more later. But we do have to make sure we shoot him enough in order to get him to do this, otherwise we'll be wasting quite a bit of time. So we get another section with very unnecessarily epic music. And again, since the glitch is active, none of these enemies are going to shoot at us, which is really convenient. They're all fixated on an enemy that does not exist. Take a little shortcut here to get to the next area. And in this section here, normally we would use the dummy in order to distract the enemies in this area. So we can shoot Gunta 11 times with sniper grenades. But we don't have all the sniper grenades we need, so we have to use some extra regular ammo, which is a little bit slower, but again, since the dummy glitch is active, all these enemies are distracted, and we will never have to worry about taking damage or getting knocked or anything, so we can just focus on Gunta there. So now we're going into the final area of the game. And this area has one of the most interesting sequence breaks. So we've got this snack right here, which we don't really need to use, but I feel bad. I'm going to give him a little snack. In this section, we're going to get the world's smallest nuclear explosion, and we have to destroy 4 of these in order to free our dog. However, the actual check for getting the freeing Max, or not Max, Bones. Max is what he's named in the sequel. Alright, so unfortunately I ran into a little bit of a problem here. So I actually have to now move Gunta out of the way. This is a fun little thing that can happen. Because the glitch is active with the dummy, he is in the way and blocking the world's smallest nuclear explosion. But we can use the vent glitch to actually get to what is supposed to be the last of the 4 that we need to destroy. And it only checks to make sure that one's destroyed. It does not check that all 4 are destroyed in order to consider Bones being free here. So by doing this little exploit with the vent, we can effectively skip 3/4 of this last little boss area. And now our buddy here is going to make the ultimate sacrifice in order to try and stop Gunta once and for all. He's going to become the snack. But again, Gunta's AI is still kind of messed up because of the dummy glitch. And because of that, we can throw this at him and he is going to be able to die instantly because he needs to get to a certain area by a certain time in order for the trigger of the end of the level to happen. So if you do the dummy glitch, don't get him to move, and then just throw bones at the right spot, then he will be right in the area where he needs to default back to in order to have that death animation happen. But yeah, we're at the end of the game. I also think I forgot to hit splits during the time I was timing it, so just ignore that. I'm just going to reset it. You can get a good idea of where the time ends, because it ends whenever that animation with Gunta happens. So yeah, that was MDK. Very fun game, very explosive, very bizarre. And love to be able to showcase this in a marathon again soon. So thanks for everybody who watched, and I hope to see you guys again soon.